Hey everyone, Richard Metal Fan here, bringing you guys a brand new 2018 album review. And today we're going to be looking into the new album, well, one of the most anticipated albums of 2018. And as you can see below the title, today we're going to be looking into the new album from the band Ghost, entitled Prequelle, which came out today through Buena Vista Records. Now, Ghost probably doesn't really need an introduction. These guys have like one of the most hyped bands in rock and metal. These guys have been around since 2006. They formed in Linköping in Sweden. And they've been putting out their album since their first album, which came out in 2010, which was Opus Eponymous, which in my opinion is still probably my favorite Ghost album. Love that album a lot. And then 2013, they arrived with their second album, Infestituum, however the fuck you pronounce it names. And it was also from a brief point for legal reasons, like in the US they had to be called Ghost BC for copyrights or something. And Infestituum, which was, it was a decent album, I mean, but it doesn't really compare to like the debut, which I thought was really awesome. And this album, the new album Prequelle, which was the follow-up to 2015's Meliora, which I thought was a pretty good album. I did a lot better than Infestituum. But this album, does it live up to what Meliora has? In my honest opinion, I think it definitely has. I feel like it's a step up from that album. And Ghost, I mean, I've seen Ghost live once last year, and like they're well known for like having like masks and sort of like a mystique, and they just put on have really great live show. But anyway, this new album, I was quite impressed. You know, I think this is a step up. I think it's probably their best album to date. And one thing to note is like it just sounds just like classic rock, classic metal. Almost feels like you go back into like the 70s. It's kind of like with Black Sabbath, with Blue Oyster Cult. I can even hear a little bit of like just straight up heavy metal from like 80s stuff, kind of like King Diamond, Merciful Fate, mainly just like the music and stuff. And the vocals, let's talk about the production. The production on there is pretty solid, produced by Tom Galgatti. The production is where it needs to be. The vocal work he was Papa Emeritus, but now he goes by Cardinal Copia, which, I mean, we obviously know his real identity is Tobias Forge, which he is basically sort of like the leader of the group. And while the rest of the band is sort of like the Nameless Ghouls, where they have like two guitarists, a bassist, a drummer, and a keyboard player. And like musically, it just sounds really great. Like the playing is really good, and I honestly think this is pretty much the heaviest I've heard Ghost has gone, which is, wow, pretty impressive. Without further ado, let's dive into this album track by track. Now, the first track on this album is a song called Ashes, which is sort of like a spooky and atmospheric instrumental introduction to the album that sort of really sets the tone and sort of like the vibe of the whole album. It's sort of like Hammer horror-esque kind of like music plays as like children creepily sings the full version of Ring Around the Rosie. It's sort of like deeply unsettling and immediately introduced the plague concept effectively. And then, of course, then it just launches into the song Rats, which is the first single from this album. The single, I think it was pretty much like wow, this brilliant, much impressive. It's sort of like a metal-tinged hard rock track full of energy. It's sort of like you can rock along to the melodic singing from Tobias softens the blow for some pretty dark lyrics. And this is pretty much one of the best Ghost tracks yet. They have really pinpointed what to do and sort of like and what they do best, and sort of like run through it. The music is played well, not too complicated, but keep it interesting with sort of like the tempo changes and some really great solid guitar work. Immediately, it's a high set standard, and sort of like the next track does, which is the next song is Faith. Hey, this song is pretty much darker and heavier with a very traditional 80s metal feel. The chorus lightens up musically with more rock sound, and the lyrics have sort of like the anti-religious theme that Ghosts are pretty much well known for. And some excellent guitar work that really drives this track and can really get your attention. This band is maybe known for their theatrics, but once again, they prove that they are some really great, excellent musicians. The track will really excite some fans who really love the heavier sound of the last album, which I think that album was heavy, but this album I just feel like it just turned it up a little bit more. And next up we have See the Light, and fittingly we lead into a song with a church organ backing up to a sort of like a very heavenly choir. There's sort of like a more traditional piano kicks and following like the guitars play a slow but heavy rhythm that brings the mind to like a power ballad. The song sort of like makes use of the choir again, and during the chorus as Forge's his powerful voice sings the lyrics of like, every day that you feed me with hate I grow stronger. And of course Ghosts are excellent at like bringing like frame deep and sort of like very dark lyrics, but sort of like very catchy too. And it's the song sort of like deface Italy and has like an 80s kind of like power ballad feel, but in the best way possible. Well, and there's sort of like a synth sound throughout the song that's almost reminiscent of like a guitar, and somehow it's surprisingly fit. It's a good solid track and sort of like adds like a dynamic bridge leading into the next song, Miasma, where we here have the church organ again, but there's like a crackly low vibe tinge to it, with then some slow heavy guitars and sort of backed up with some pounding drum beat. This is sort of like another slow tempo song similar to like the previous song, but with more of a traditional metal hinge. The track has sort of like is an instrumental with some really attention grabbing guitar solos, which just wow, it's just mind blowing. The synths have like an 80s sound again, but with a more of a heavier feel, and this track really rocks out. This band is good at like blending sort of like the elements and has a little bit of some composed music. Then again, it happens sort of like a saxophone solo, and like I don't even know how this band makes it work, but they just do it in a really fun way. And then the more dance-inducing feel sort of like it is in the next track, which is the second single, which is Danse Macabre. This track is just pure hard rock and forges his past, and that genre really comes into the fore. This has a very much more of a modern feel and very fast tempo, but being one of the most catchiest tracks on the album. Very high energy that makes you really want to dance, with the lyrics about people dancing and, well, hooking up as they realize they're dying. This is, in my opinion, the highlight of the album and one of the better tracks they have released. Not as heavy as some of the previous ones, but I feel like this one would be amazing to see it be performed live. I have a symphonic intro sort of leads us to a ballad called Pro Memoria, which has sort of like a mournful tone rounded out by what's sort of like a violin to it. Some soft piano starts and the tone is quite heavy despite sort of like the softer sound to it. And the lyrics sing of Lucifer and sort of like death and people wanting to die. The heavy guitars sort of like intersperse themselves with the church organ and sound with the band's trademark. This is sort of like a nice tonal change from like the previous couple songs. It seems like a simple soft ballad on the surface, but it's pretty much exploits sort of like the mood, I guess, from Tobias. I mean, this track, and it really just punches you in the heart. We go into Witch Image, which brings it back to the rock sound Ghosts are known for. The song is more kind of like similar to like their older shit, but is more fine-tuned. Very much a rock song without sort of like the softer element. And there's sort of like a, I guess, power metal tinge guitar solos with sort of like a rock edge, and the whole song is more upbeat. Excuse me there. Tobias's voice really just gets a workout on this track, really proving himself as a talented vocalist and not just a showman. Then things take a little bit of a strange turn. Then we go to Helven Fonster, which is just another instrumental, and it feels like an intermission almost. It almost has kind of like an 80s horror movie feel to it, especially with like the music and sort of like the synth sound that almost sounds flute-like. And then the heaviness kicks in, and power metal guitars kick in with an epic feel, like you're in a battle almost. It almost kind of feels like I'm listening to like something from like Europe or Journey or whatnot. And the song takes on a very somber, mournful feel with a howling wind and sound, which almost kind of sounds like something folkish or medieval sounding. And then the church bells chime, and I feel like the themes get darker, so does the music, and you can feel yourself being drawn in more and more. And the last song on the album is aptly titled Life Eternal. Well, piano plays over a mournful ballad kind of like singing. And there's almost like a feel of a love song at the first listen. Of course, the song is about the inevitable conclusion, which would be death. The music and vocals sound soft and sweet and sort of like lure you into more of a slower mood. And there are some heavy guitars on here that pick up the pace, and they're sort of like an epic, almost redemptive feel. Very catchy despite the almost nihilistic lyrical content. Hence, the drums really pretty much stand on the track, with the gentle but marching feel draws like the whole album to natural close. And this is a song that you can really sing along to. It really finishes the album on like a high note, and I feel like this would be another great song we would see live if they play this. Now, overall, A Prequelle by Ghost is a really good album. Probably I liked it a lot better than Meliora. It pretty much shows like why Ghosts are sort of like popular and well respected as they are, and sort of like why they are well known and one of the most hyped bands going in the scene right now. No, and they just show that they're more than just like a stage show with each song. I mean, yet like the whole album weaves together very thematically, and I just like sort of like the visuals and stuff, and they just do it so well. Now, if I were to give this album a score, I probably would give this a 9 out of 10. It's pretty good. But yeah, that's my review of Prequelle by Ghost, guys. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about it, and I'll see you all in the next video, and keep it metal.